see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous climb o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the and the home of the does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the and the home of the
Why did the founding fathers in America have slaves? Why did black men allow themselves to be slaves? That's my question. Now why? Don't I pick cotton for the white man, but my great-great-grandfather did. You know what? It's simple. I refuse. And if you try to make me, I'm gonna bust a cap in your head. Black people begging to be included in places where they will not want it. It is unchristian, it is unmanly. The Christian man never be anywhere where he's not wanted, or anywhere where he's merely tolerated. Any place that makes him feel small. If I'm not invited, I don't want to be there. And this is what you get from it: ridicule and pity.
And I'm scared. Scared.
Never me. As I've said before, there are two types of men. One that says that I will accept slavery before death, and the other one that says I'll accept death before slavery. You had a choice. Kill him or die. That's the choice. Always. Kill him or die. Slavery is a choice.
Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. Happy Lord's Day, dear ones. Happy Sunday to you, whether you are watching us on X or Rumble or YouTube. Welcome to tonight's live stream. I have missed you guys. We didn't have a live stream this past Friday. However, I did not leave y'all hanging. I dropped plenty of content to keep y'all busy. In fact, if you did not get a chance to watch the reaction video that I did to the little homie up in Chicago, well, he's actually from Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, but he was in Chicago, and I told y'all, what is the saying for 2026? Y'all, these blacks ain't honest. Now, my audience that watches me faithfully, y'all know who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people of God who don't view people in these constructs and categories, and it's not the black versus the whites. When I say these blacks ain't honest, I'm not talking about you and I. Those of us who are of like mind, of sound mind, of normal, healthy, functioning mind. I am referring to this subculture of Americans, these hyphenated Americans who find themselves always on the side of victimhood. Like they are running fast in the victim Olympics and they are running to see who's gonna take home the gold. Well, in that video, you guys, we happen to expose another fake well, a hoax is fake, so that's kind of like double. I didn't really need to say it that way, but it was another race hoax that was exposed. Someone was on vacay up in Chicago and he tried to cry racism. Him was saying that he got kicked out of the pool because him was black. But come to find out, him was not kicked out of the pool because he was black. He was kicked out of the pool because he didn't want to follow the rules. Which brings me to this discussion, this topic that we've been unpacking lately, which is ethnic narcissism. We're going to talk a little bit about ethnic narcissism tonight. But before we do that, let's get some things out of the way. First, I need you guys to like this video, share it with your tribe. We have a lot to unpack. As you can see, I've got a stack of notes, and y'all, I printed on both sides. We got front and back tonight, because what we need to do, as you guys know, I've been covering the Nolan Wells tragedy down there in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And this story has taken a turn that needs to be exposed. Now, I knew this is the direction that this story was going to go in, and I warned y'all weeks ago. Did I not tell y'all that what the race hustlers, the grievance apparatus, I told y'all that they were going to use this young man's death as part of their 2026 midterm election strategy. I told y'all this, and so many of y'all thought I was crazy. You were like, girl, you are reaching. They are just asking questions and they just want to know what happened to Nolan Wells. Well, we can have a conversation about that in the sense that as of August, what's today, the 16th, Nolan Wells' official cause of death has not been publicly released. I'm sure by now you guys know that there have been no criminal charge announced, and the independent autopsy did not establish a homicide. You also have the independent examination of Nolan's body found no fractures, no deep tissue injuries, and classified the cause as undetermined pending additional information. We've been following this case extensively, and we know that the Jackson County DA has said that this matter, because the cause of death has not been determined, it is going to go before a grand jury, and that doing so is routine for deaths in Jackson County for any other cause of death other than natural causes. So if it's any other death other than a natural cause or a non-criminal vehicular accident, going to the grand jury is normal. Okay, so that gives you guys the factual anchor for this entire show. We acknowledge that there are unanswered questions. No one is harping on individuals for asking questions. We understand there may be additional evidence. There may ultimately be evidence of a crime. But as of today, at this moment, no one has publicly established that Nolan Wells was murdered, much less that that he was murdered because he was Black. Now, it's interesting, that last part that I stated, that option, or should I say that narrative, was introduced very early on, and it wasn't introduced by the DA's office. It was introduced by the pro-wokety woke blackity black crowd. Okay, very early on. And I know I've gotten a lot of flack for implicating the Nolan Wells' family by saying, listen, we were with you in a pursuit of truth, but when you hitched your wagon to this unscrupulous, poor character, individuals who are known to be exploitative, who are known to be race hustlers and race grifters, like their reputation precedes them. When we saw that, y'all, I had a little frog just jumped in my throat. Did y'all hear that? Excuse me. When we saw that, it was at that moment that as much as our heart was bleeding for this family, we were like, listen, okay, we're trying to can with you. We are trying. But the moment you hitch your wagon to these individuals is when suspicion enters the room, and for good reason. These men, Al Sharpton and Ben Crump, do not have a credible track record of getting justice for anybody. Oh, but they do have a track record at running after ambulance, chasing waterfalls that happen to have a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So, the whole concept of Nolan Wells possibly being murdered, let alone being murdered because he was Black, no one brought that into the discussion other than the pro-wokety woke blackity black crowd. So that is precisely why some of the rhetoric that we heard, y'all, there was a press conference a couple of days ago, and I listened to this press conference. It's behind the backdrop of the National Association of Black Journalists, and this press conference was incredibly disappointing. It was disappointing to me, but then I said, no, you know what? I said this was eye-opening. This was eye-opening because they said the quiet part out loud. And I'm not a prophet, nor am I the daughter of a prophet, but I told y'all weeks ago, I said this is absolutely political. This is absolutely part. Unofficially, we'll say unofficially, but it's moving like it's official. This is unofficially a part of the 2026 Democrat Party's midterm election interference strategy. Why do I call it interference? Well, because, as you guys know, the Democrats do have a history of swaying the outcome of elections, and they have a toolbox of tools that they dig into every election cycle. And we all know one of the tools that never seems to fail them is to exploit a tragedy on the basis of ethnicity. Rile up the Blacks, get them all in their feelings, have them, marching with the bloodstained banner of victimhood and racial grievance. Also, they can usher them to the polls and sway the election in the direction that they want them to go. And this year is particularly important. Why? What did we see happen all summer long, all through the spring? We saw redistricting, right? We saw the whole gerrymandering conversation come to the forefront. We saw it in Tennessee. We saw it in Louisiana. We saw the Congressional Black Caucus shaking in their boots. They said, oh no, our power is loosening. The Blacks are waking up. The folks, the red states in the South are no longer playing along, and they're trying to take these districts from us. That's what happened. I know y'all think I'm dramotional. That's dramatic and emotional kind of blended together. But I'm telling the truth. What we've seen for the past 60 years is this power structure within Black America where we've had these plantation overlords called the Congressional Black Caucus members. You got Clyburn out there in South Carolina. You got Mad Maxine with that horrible wig out there in California. Down here in Georgia, we got Hank Johnson, Mr. Low IQ, Guam is going to tip over. Like, we have them spaced out all over the place. But these members of the Congressional Black Caucus, they preside over majority Black districts. And the moment these red states were like, well, wait a minute, New York is gerrymandered, California is gerrymandered, like, it's time that we redraw some of these maps because the electoral demographic is starting to change and we don't really have any representation here. And more importantly, why are these districts drawn on the basis of ethnicity? Do all Black people think the same? Or, I mean, I know most of us vote blue no matter who, but not I, says the cat. I don't vote blue. And so when the redistricting conversation, I know I'm taking y'all into the kitchen and y'all like, why are we going into the weeds? This matters. It matters and it's relevant to this Nolan Wells case, and I'm about to explain why. It matters because if maps get redrawn and all of a sudden those congressional districts that were majority Black, which technically is a violation of voting rights legislation, or should I say it's discriminatory on its basis. If these congressional Black districts, these individuals, they won't be able to compete because no one's going to vote for them outside of the Blacks who are just conditioned to vote for them anyway. If they start losing power, mind you, it's not Black people are losing their right to vote. No, it's Black Democrat Marxist politicians. They're the ones losing their power. They're not going to go out without a fight. And because they're not going down without a fight, that means the gloves are off. They don't care who the casualties of war must be. Even if they got to go down to Mississippi in a small boating community that wasn't bothering nobody. These folks were down there minding their business. If the right tragedy happens to manifest itself, they figured we can put a racist narrative on this, spin a tragedy that's not a crime. We don't know what happened to Nolan Wells, but if we can spin this in our favor, maybe, just maybe, we can use this to galvanize the Blacks and give them a reason to vote for us. Not because our policies are good, not because we have any sort of measurable results that have proven to improve their conditions. They don't have that. The schools are still trash. There still is no economic development. Wage gap is still the same. They're out here advocating for illegals and giving them your jobs, moving them into your communities and giving them your resources. But that doesn't matter. As long as there's always a problem, they always have something to campaign on. And what is the one thing that they campaign on that they know will get you in your feelings, have you put your defenses down and run to the polls out of fear mongering alone? What is that? It is racism. The fear of the racist white boogeyman who's behind every nook and cranny. If they can just make sure that ghost is always haunting you, always chasing you, then they've got a legitimate campaign strategy that they know will yield them some measurable results as it relates to the Black vote. So what does this have to do with Nolan Wells? Well, I'm about to tell you. Actually, I'm not about to tell you anything. You know who's going to tell you? Al Sharpton. Okay, Al Sharpton is going to be the one to tell you in his own words. Now, Al Sharpton's holding this press conference, and I'm about to share my screen and share it with you. And it's interesting because I thought, ladies and gentlemen, that this was supposed to be a press conference about determining how this 18-year-old young man died. But that's not what you're about to hear. That's not what you are about to hear at all. So let's go ahead. First, let's get some, hold on. This thing is moving Moving way too fast. Give me one quick second, guys. We got to get some graphics. Okay, let's make it look nice and pretty for you. Now, this first clip, like I said, I need Al Sharpton to tell you in his own words. So y'all take and listen to this. He didn't even waste time. Y'all, we are 10 seconds in. Take a listen to this.
Good morning. Let me say the case that we have been dealing with now for the last several weeks around Nolan Wells is indicative of many cases around the country that have raised serious questions with racial overtones. Attorney Crump and I are going tomorrow, where I'm doing the eulogy for a young black man in Madison, Wisconsin, homeless, and they say had a knife, and there's the tape of him being shot, 3 cops surrounding him, shot and killed, 4 shots. And these cases building up in a climate of an administration in Washington that we cannot feel will objectively investigate. There was a time that we could say if state authorities fail us, we can go to the Justice Department. Even under George Bush, we went to the Justice Department. We, at this point, have to hope that one, we could deal with civil courts, or secondly, that there's a balance of power with the Democrats taking the House in November, and maybe the Judiciary Committee under that can at least put a check and balance on cases that need to be investigated.
Okay.
Flag on the play.
Flag on the play. Flag on the play. My flag on the play was a little low. Let me turn the volume up a little bit. Okay. Let me just kind of summarize what he said. He talks kind of slow, and sometimes you lose the initial objective of the sentence because he kind of drags it out, and I think he does that and talks this way on purpose so you forget what he was originally talking about. But basically, Al Sharpton begins by talking about, this Nolan Wells case resembles so many other cases with racial overtones. And I'm like, really, Al, how is that? How is that the case? Actually, most of these cases did not have racial overtones at all. What they did was they inserted the racial overtone. The ethnic narcissist always believes that the racial overtone is ever present among us because they just make it up, right? So anytime there is an incident that involves black or white or black and Asian, black and anything else, well, other than Hispanic, they don't really regard the Latinos too much. So it could be a black and Hispanic, and no one's going to claim racism. But usually it's black and white, secondarily black and Asian. Whenever there is some sort of incident that occurred where those are the two ethnicities in question, they assume there's a racial overtone. Now, we can prove without a shadow of a doubt in so many of these cases that race did not play a part in what happened or was the proximate cause of the incident. But it doesn't stop them from inserting race into the discussion because racial grievance and if you're a race hustler, and this is your currency of choice. So you've got to find it or insert it wherever it doesn't exist. So he mentions that, so many cases like this included with racial overtones. And I'm like, who mentioned race other than y'all? What they did was they saw that this case was ripe to pull the wool over people's eyes because of geographic location. It is in Mississippi. Okay. And I'd like to say this. I need people who live in Mississippi. Do not allow these individuals to force you to live under the perpetual condemnation of the past, especially if you are a Christian and you are free in Jesus and you've been made alive in Christ Jesus. Whatever happened in the past, if you've repented of your sin and placed your faith in Christ alone, that has nothing to do with you. There is now, therefore, no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Now, you would think a pulpit pimp This bobblehead right here would know and understand that if he understood the scriptures and loved God and loved his word. But no, he's a false shepherd. He's a wolf. He's out here perpetrating like he's a pastor, but he's not. He is no reverend. Okay, this is why the racial grievance can never die. This is why the black community can never heal, because he doesn't want them healed. He doesn't want people who've never 9 times out of 10 experience any sort of legitimate discrimination. He doesn't want you to be free in Jesus and to live as free citizens. As a matter of fact, I posted today, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I posted today because my pastor preached from, the sermon was from Psalms, but one of the New Testament reading today was out of 1 Peter, and it talked about living free. And it stood out to be, I don't have time to pull it. I should have pulled it. I wasn't prepared. But you would think somebody like Al Sharpton would be encouraging the black community to lay claim of their American heritage, to function in their freedom, and to live as free citizens in this great country. But he can't make money and raise money off of a message like that. So when he talks about, we're in a climate, where this case has racial overtones, and then here comes the kicker. Shortly after that, he introduced the balance of power with Democrats taking the House in November. And I said, well, wait a minute. I thought this was supposed to be a press conference about determining how an 18-year-old died. Why am I listening to a campaign commercial about Democrats taking Congress? Like, what, how did we get here, Al? That this press conference is supposed to be about determining what happened to Nolan Wells, but instead, it increasingly became this argument about the Justice Department and how, well, we could go at least under Bush. We could seek some sort of remedy. But now Black America, you got this situation down in Mississippi and all the racism and Trump. Don't forget Trump. The Congressional Black Caucus, what we can do, what we need. See, this how we gonna fix all this, right? According to Al, his solution is you gotta make sure that you give Democrats control of Congress. Because if you don't, we'll have no recourse or remedy to protect you from the racist white boogeyman that was nowhere to be found down in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. Now, I'm not sure if it's this clip, but y'all remember maybe a month or two ago, I did the show clowning Al Sharpton because in a couple of weeks, at the end of this month, he's having that March on Washington. The National Action Network is sponsoring. They've got boatloads of victim class Black folks driving and descending upon Washington, D.C. And do you know why they are convening on D.C.? They are convening to march for voting rights. Now, last time I checked, Black folks are still voting. I voted in the primaries, and then we had a special election down here because David Scott, the congressional member from my district, he died. I voted. My son voted for the first time. Blacks are not having any problems at the polls voting. But why? Why is Al Sharpton having a march for voting rights? It's because it's not about your right to vote. It is about these Black Marxist politicians losing their districts because the maps have been redrawn, because it's unconstitutional to draw a map on the basis of all these funky looking maps. What they do is they try to figure out where is the highest concentration of the Blacks, draw maps around them, keep them locked in a district, and notice what is very eerily similar about all these Black districts. They're all poor. They're all dependent on the government. Lots of SNAP, EBT, Section 8, poor infrastructure, no economic development. Businesses are fleeing these districts, not flocking to these districts. No business wants to invest in a congressional Black district. Why? That's because the members of Congress don't want They don't want them to invest. They have to keep the people dependent, because as long as you have limited freedom, limited mobility, limited access to do anything, they will always have something to campaign on. They like it like this. Look at Maxine Waters' district. Look at Jim Clyburn's district. He think he treating them black folks good. He give y'all free fish, a fish fry, and he makes sure he can bus you to a good domestic job in other parts of the county. But in terms of bringing jobs and industry to that district specifically, no, he ain't about to do that. The blacks might get a little bit too beside themselves and actually try to make themselves and improve their station in life. They got to keep pushing abortion. They make sure that Planned Parenthood targets your communities. Al Sharpton made sure that the menthol stayed in the cigarettes because it kept black folks addicted to the cigarettes more. They don't want your health improved. They don't want you to have access to better food choices. They love the food desert. Now they complain about the food desert, but they don't really care about the food desert. All of this, he has a march scheduled for voting rights at the end of this month. And in the middle of this speech, I thought a young black boy mysteriously died, and we just had questions about what happened to him. But against the backdrop of that, how many seconds in? 1 minute and 52 seconds in, Al Sharpton, he shows us his hand. He says the quiet part out loud. He starts talking about the balance of power in Congress. In a midterm election cycle, several months before the midterm elections, do you think that was a coincidence? Oh no. He did that on purpose. Because unfortunately, these young men, Warren, Jax, Morgan, down in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, have found themselves the object of their wrath, and they've done nothing. These young boys are like, how did we get here? Why is this the direction that this discussion is going in? We've done nothing wrong. It's because they don't care who they destroy, who they have to step on, what lies they tell. When the ethnic narcissist is losing power, and they will crash out, and they will, by any means necessary, by hook or by crook, they will ensure that they don't go down without a fight. Think about it. Jasmine Crockett. Now, she lost her seat because she was getting too big for britches and she wanted to run for Senate, which was dumb. Al Green, drawn out of his district, lost his seat, right? We have several other members that either their districts no longer exist. You have down there in Florida with Sheila Shefferlis McCormick and the little freak nasty rapper, and then the white Jewish lady. They're all fighting for that black district. And so now the Democrats are fighting each other. Like, this is all about a power grab. And at the center of this black political power grab, you've got a small boat community they found themselves the object of these people's wrath. And I'm sure if you are from Ocean Springs, Mississippi, you're trying to figure out, what in the heck does any of this have to do with us? Listen, you were chosen. They chose you like they choose every other victim that they want to exploit. But what's different in this case, these young men have nothing to hide, and they are fighting back. And we're going to talk a little bit about how they're going to fight back. But I needed to set the stage up for you because I didn't have to make this up. Now, I've been saying this for weeks that this was the plan, but he finally let the cat out the bag. They've abandoned evidence. The evidence doesn't matter. We've now abandoned logic and forensic science. All those things have been abandoned, and now we're just doing barnyard jurisprudence. That's what we're doing now. I'm gonna let Al finish because he's gonna start hollering, or at least talking about some hollering in a moment. Let's take a listen.
But we are right now where we have two parents, lovely parents, I've gotten to know them, that really don't have an answer to the question, is it a civil rights violation or not? And we do not know. How do you trust the words of people that say immediately there was no foul play when you haven't even investigated whether there was foul play? How do you trust people that come back from something that happened and never really give you a straight story of what happened, including you have the keys to the car?
Now you see
So
that,
when you
no.
have questions-
This is the Weasley way. This Negro bulls, he get on my nerves. I can't, y'all. I'm sorry. I love Jesus, but I hate every false way, and Al Sharpton represents every false way. He is really good. We're going to talk about a rhetorical device that Al Sharpton uses. He's very slick with it. The ethnic narcissist is trained in this. What they do is they take a bunch of disjointed facts that either have plausible explanations for it or have already been debunked, but they lump them all in together. It's like a moving target. Like you're trying to keep up with it, but it's moving so much. You're like, well, wait a minute, let's stay right there. But boom, they've already moved. They've moved to something else. He's talking about car keys and, well, how can you say it's no foul play if it hadn't been investigated? What the brain dead moron doesn't understand is that in this community, when these drownings happen, usually they kind of know what to look for. They're not saying that they had no intention on investigating. Preliminary, in the preliminary findings. Ooh, I was struggling, y'all. Did I do it? Did I do it? In the preliminary findings of the investigation of Nolan Wells, if investigators don't see signs of foul play, it wasn't that they were ready to shut this case down. I get it. A lot of people are like, well, maybe they shouldn't have said anything. That might be true. But it did not stop them from exhausting all kinds of efforts to get to the bottom of it. But if you look at a body, you're like, okay, we don't see any signs of a struggle. We don't see strangulation. There are no marks on this body. Of course, we're going to investigate. But from the looks of it, it doesn't look like it's any foul play. What Al Sharpton does is he takes that detail and wants to use that as the basis of, yeah, we can't trust Mississippi because before they even investigated anything, they determined there was no foul play, which is not true. To say at the moment we don't see any signs of foul play is not the same as we're not going to investigate and do anything else because it's an open and shut case. That is not what happened. That is not what happened. He also mentioned something that I thought was interesting. He wants this fair and thorough investigation. And I'd like to bring up a detail that doesn't get highlighted much. They were the initial ones that talked about the cell phone being an object of suspicion. This is the same phone that has now come out that we now know that is still in their possession, and it has never undergone an examination or an investigation. But do you know whose phones were voluntarily and immediately submitted to be investigated and scrubbed and extracted and all manner of things done to it? All three of those boys were like, look, early on, here's our phone. We whatever it takes to get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan, we will voluntarily submit to it. Criminals do not volunteer and offer their personal property to be subject to an investigation, especially when they're not a suspect of a crime. But they had nothing to hide. But why is it that we had to get a letter 30 plus days after the fact that said, well, I mean, we're willing to cooperate, we just need to name the place and name the time and, jointly and collaboratively we'll work together. No, pimping. That's not how this works. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying, well, why wasn't the phone subpoenaed? We do not have evidence of a crime. I don't know what kind of street justice y'all are used to, But this is not Law and Order SVU. This is the real world with real people's lives. They can't just roll up to Christine Wansley and snatch the phone saying this is evidence and we need. If she doesn't volunteer it and hand it over to be examined, and if there's no evidence to support that a crime has been committed, how do the investigators get a subpoena? On what basis are they asking for the phone? There's got to be some sort of probable cause. And based on the other details of this investigation, there are no details to a point that is. So she would have to say, listen, whatever I can do to cooperate and help us find what happened to my son, here is his phone. But she holding on to that phone for dear life. And I've got some suspicions as to the reasons why I think that is. And we're not going to get into that right now. Maybe we'll do that another day. But listen to the Weasley way. We're about to get into his barnyard jurisprudence. He about to start talking about hollering and pigs and farms and stuff in a minute.
Than answers. You have to have people that will drive the answers out, and that's what we do. And that's why I've been involved, and that's why we stay involved. And it gets worse and worse and worse. The parent of one of the boys threatening to sue us.
Hold on a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself. We are absolutely going to talk about the parents of the gentleman threatening to sue. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that. And I'm glad that they are. These poverty pimps and race hustlers are so comfortable and they are so high on their own supply that they never expect the objects of their wrath to fight back, to stand up for themselves, and to defend themselves. And so now you're about to watch those who were guilty of playing or asserting that these young boys must know something. You know, it's one black boy and all of these white boys. Somebody saw something. Well, now he's about to start whining like a little girl because the wrath is coming. And when I say when the reign of terror rains down on Al Sharpton, he's going to wish that he had retired and let this go. Al Sharpton, Ben Crump are going to wish that they had just left this town alone and left these people alone. These people are not playing with them. And as a matter of fact, we're going to talk about all of us can do something. You may not have a podcast. You may not have an audience that you can talk to. But we are currently in a battle for the reputation and for the lives of these young men that are being destroyed at the hands of this race grievance crowd. There's a way that you can support these young men, and I'm going to drop the link to their GoFundMe. The best thing you can do for these young boys, yes, we want you to pray. We want you to pray that the unfruitful deeds of darkness would be exposed and that biblical justice would prevail in their favor. We also, yes, we want to pray that the investigators can put together and figure out what actually happened to Nolan Wells. But what you can also do is support the GoFundMe for the litigation fund for these young men who have to defend themselves. Oh, they're not just coming after Al Sharpton and Ben Crump. There are so many content creators, all of the lies and the accusations that have been hurled toward the individuals involved on the other side of this. They need to be held accountable. And it's going to be expensive. It's one thing for these young men to retain legal counsel for them. But in order to go after all of the individuals who've been running their gums and lying and participating in all kinds of nefarious deeds in order to implicate and defame these young men, you've got to go to every jurisdiction and you've got to retain legal counsel there so that you can collaboratively all work together to serve and sue each person. No, they can't sue everybody, but they are going for the big fish. And so if any of my moderators are able to grab the link to the GoFundMe for Warren and Jax, And Morgan, I would greatly appreciate it. But if not, I've got a little note to remind myself at the end, and then I'll pin a comment after this live stream is over. But let's give Al some more time to hang himself with some more figurative rope.
For asking a question. Imagine that now. Some of y'all call it, what do you feel about the parents? One of the boys says he's going to sue you and Ben Crump. Sue us for what? For saying what happened? So we've gone back that far. And that is why we're going to stand with these parents, because usually, you know, I come from Brooklyn, New York. I was born and raised there. I don't come from the South. But my mother used to bring me down south to my grandmother in Dothan, Alabama. And Congresswoman, my grandmother told me, you see that pen over there? I said, yes. She said, that's a pen of hogs and pigs. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, always know something. If you take a brick and you throw it in that pile, the hog that hollers is the hog you hit. There's too much hollering going on in Mississippi that we haven't hit something. I can't figure out which one we hit, but we hit something. Because now they talking about lawsuits, they threatening this, threatening a mother of a child, trying to get her job taken. You wouldn't be hollering if we wasn't hitting something.
This man is such a liar. First of all, no one has threatened to sue the Nolan Wells family. You've not heard any of the legal representatives for any of these young men threaten to sue her. Oh, but they've talked about suing you, Al. Oh yeah, they done talked about you and Ben and Willie D and Miss Audio Engineer Extraordinaire. I mean, there have been lots of people. It's been circulating around that who they're coming for. But the Wells family has not been the target or the object of any of these lawsuits. So you're just lying. But what he's doing, we're going to talk about the rhetorical device that Al Sharpton is using here. He's conflating a lot of disjointed facts, and he's throwing them all together to try to build this grievance cake, and it's collapsing. So when he talks about, there's too much hollering going on in Mississippi that we haven't hit something, and then he said, well, you wouldn't be hollering if we wasn't hitting something. And I'm like, sir, what? So now the fact that somebody is threatening to sue you, not Christine or her husband, but threatening to sue you, is evidence that your allegations must have been correct. This is the brain dead, weak logic that typically comes from this side. This is the weakest logic I've ever heard. And Al knows better. He knows better, but this is what this is category conflation, right? What Al is doing, he's deliberately blending two completely different categories and blending them all together. On one side, you have one category is someone protesting because you've exposed their wrongdoing. And then the other category is someone protesting because you may be falsely accusing them of something that they didn't do. Those two things are not the same thing. But Al Sharpton wants them to be the same thing because this protects the narrative that he's been curating from the beginning. His logic is basically, if you get angry when I accuse you, well, your anger proves that I was right. I told y'all these ethnic narcissists are a piece of work. They will pee on you and try to convince you that it's rain. Can you imagine somebody, they walk into your workplace this Monday, tomorrow, and they tell everybody, I have questions whether Susan stole $20,000. And then they go on social media and they go on television, and then thousands of people start repeating it, and strangers, they start calling Susan's job and they start threatening her family. And then eventually Susan says, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm calling a lawyer. And their response is, aha, see, look at her hollering. We must have hit the right hog. I'm like, this ninja knows he is evil and retarded, but this level of low IQ argumentation, it works on his audience. It works, but you know what? We're going to expose it today. I need you guys, do you guys understand how absurd this is? This is absurd. Your attempt to defend your reputation suddenly becomes evidence against you. So that makes it a rigged game. If you stay quiet, they'll say, well, your silence is suspicious. But if you defend yourself, your defense is suspicious. And Lord forbid if you hire an attorney, well, that's really, now y'all don't cross the line. Now there's something is up. That's really suspicious. If your attorney then threatens litigation because you've been reckless with your words, well, apparently now you're a hog. Y'all, this is what I mean. When I said, I told y'all these blacks was dishonest. They're not honest. And I told y'all this entire thing is being constructed so that the narrative can never lose. No matter which way, which direction they go in, the narrative will never lose. And they think it's Trump type. They think we got this sealed. If we could just keep stalling till November. We just got to drag this out. Al Sharpton is such a weasel with this. This man is evil and he is wicked, and he is going to have to give an account for all of the harm and all of the damage that he has and is continuing to cause. Because notice what he's doing. Y'all, he is not producing evidence that Warren or Jax or Morgan or anybody else on that daggone island committed a crime. He's not furnished any evidence of that. All he's doing is using their reaction to the accusations as a substitute for evidence. Did you see what he did there? This is what the ethnic narcissist does this. They project, they will gaslight, they will accuse. Those are completely different categories, but they will conflate them all together. Somebody saying, y'all are destroying my reputation, so now I'm going to hold you legally accountable. That does not mean, Reverend Al Sharpton, congratulations that you've solved the case. That's not how evidence works. That's not how logic works. And thank God that is not how our justice system works either. And it's not supposed to work that way, because by Sharpton's standard, anybody who vigorously denies an accusation has just proven the accusation. Somebody make that make sense. Does that make sense?
Flag on the plate.
No, it does not. It does not. I want you guys, we're going to look at some more clips, but before we do that, have you guys ever heard of the acronym DARVO? DARVO. I know y'all know I've been talking about narcissism a lot. Y'all, when I say I've studied this, if there was a degree program, I'd have a PhD in it by now. DARVO is an acronym that stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. It's what narcissists do, but it describes this pattern where a person confronted about possible wrongdoing or harmful conduct, this is how they respond. They deny the conduct or they'll minimize responsibility. Then they'll attack, that's the A, attack the person that's challenging them, and then reversing victim and offender. They'll portray themselves as the victim while casting the person who's seeking accountability as the aggressor. DARVO, D-A-R-V-O. It's a rhetorical framework that Al Sharpton uses. Y'all, the man is a master at it. I got to give it to him, okay? I mean, of all the things to be good at, he is good at this DARVO rhetorical framework. And if you apply it to this press conference, you'll see it. Deny. First, he'll go, we're not accusing anyone. We're just asking questions. You know, we haven't predetermined anything. That's the plausible deniability. They've been doing that But then here comes the attack. The people threatening defamation litigation, they now become people who are supposedly trying to silence them, silence the journalists, and they're trying to intimidate us, and they don't want us to get to the truth. They're trying to sue the mama, which is not true. It's not true. Sharpton he mocks the fact that these families are trying to defend themselves against his attacks by saying, the hogs are hollering. He uses this hog analogy. I'm like, the man is talented. He evil, but he's talented. Then you have the reverse victim and offender. Think about it. These young men and their families are saying, listen, you have caused so much harm. Our reputations are being damaged. We can't come and go and just operate and do commerce freely. We're getting death threats. Our whole lives have been turned upside down. You have damaged us. And so because you've damaged us, we're seeking legal accountability. Al Sharpton and Ben Crump, they then reposition themselves as the people who are being victimized because somebody wants to sue them for their reckless words. That's the reversal. Notice the reversal here. The families say, you've damaged our son's reputations. Oh, we're coming for you. We intend to hold you and others accountable. And suddenly, Sharpton and Ben Crump, now they're the victim. We didn't do nothing. They're trying to silence us. They're going to intimidate us. Y'all saw it. It is a classic rhetorical reversal. The people demanding accountability are now recast as the aggressors. I'm like, Al and Ben were throwing bricks for weeks. Now they're upset because somebody called an attorney. I'm telling y'all, these ethnic narcissists, these chronic victims, they can never be trusted. This whole concept of ethnic narcissism that I've been talking about, I'll define it for you briefly. We're dealing with group level, like psychological, it's this psychological orientation in which the grievance and perceived, it don't have to be real, perceived disrespect and the demanding, we want to be seen, demanding recognition, right? We want to be seen and we don't feel like we're being heard and we're not represented, right? And then defense of being in the group. All of those things become central to their identity. And what makes this ethnic grievance, it's the political aspect of it, it's useful, y'all. This is so useful is because the narrative is designed to be unfalsifiable. So if you don't respond to the accusation, your silence is viewed as suspicious. But then if you defend yourself, well, why are you being defensive? Lord forbid if you go hire a lawyer, now you're intimidating the blacks. You're intimidating black people. How dare you? Oh, your white privilege is showing, right? But then if you sue because you believe with evidence, actual defamatory statements that people have made, Al Sharpton will say, see, the hog is hollering. So basically, heads, they win. Tails, you're a racist. And then you get Ben Crump. Ben Crump will come in and he'll do the cleanup operation. So I have another clip that I want to show you. It's further along. Y'all, this whole press conference was crazy work. And we're not going to be able to cover all of it, but there were some particularly interesting moments that I was like, we've got to talk about that I want to go to. So we're going to fast forward to the 22 minute, 52 second mark. This is important. This is where Ben Crump comes in. He the cleanup man.
ask for this. All they want is what happened to their son.
And I'll simply say this, because that question has come up, and I released a statement, and I want to be clear about it. We defend the First Amendment rights of content creators reporting on Nolan Wells' case. We stand with content creators, independent journalists, and citizens who are responsibly reporting on the Nolan Wells case and asking legitimate questions in pursuit of truth and accountability. The First Amendment.
Y'all just realized y'all can't even see what y'all can't even see. I'm sitting here enjoying listening to him. Y'all, him did good. Him was reading. He did so good. Just like Joe Biden, you did so good and read all the words so well. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me, we got to replay that because I was in my own world. I forgot y'all was out there. We have to go back to the 22nd, the 22. Why I keep saying 22nd? Y'all, I don't know. I'm slow tonight. 22-second, 52-minute 52-second mark. Oh, y'all, I'm sorry. I got jet lag. I'm tired. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. We're going to start over. Let's start over. Okay.
Ask for this. All they want is what happened to their son.
And I'll simply say this, because that question has come up, and I released a statement, and I want to be clear about it. We defend the First Amendment rights of content creators reporting on Nolan Wells' case. We stand with content creators, independent journalists, and citizens who are responsibly reporting on the Nolan Wells case and asking legitimate questions in pursuit of truth and accountability. The First Amendment protects robust public discussion on matters of public concern, and those protections are not reserved just for traditional media. We are deeply concerned when cease and desist letters, threatened lawsuits, or other legal pressure become tools to intimidate or silence lawful scrutiny. There is an
no, Ben.
difference between
Nobody's trying to intimidate you. They're coming for you. No. This is not a game. Like, they're just not like, oh, we're just gonna pull this out to scare them and see what that does. No, ninja. Y'all mess with the wrong town. Y'all should have left these people alone. They weren't bothering nobody. They cooperated with the investigation. These people loved Nolan, supported Nolan. He's been over their house. He's eating their food, slept in their bed. And y'all had the audacity to now cry victim because litigation has been threatened. And you know that they know they are in deep doo-doo. Because Ben, he's not speaking off the cuff here. He's like, well, hold on. Let me get my prepared statement. I've been practicing this all week. We stand with content creators and independent journalists, and important difference between our First Amendment rights and getting to the truth. He sat here. He's reading this prepared statement because he has to. Because now he's trying to cover his behind. But it's too late. It is too late. Y'all thought these white folks was going to bow the knee and cut you a check. You thought that you were going to come down there, run roughshod through their town, accuse them, destroy their lives, and they were just going to ride off in the sunset while you moved on to the next victim. But see, that's not happening. because now they got the big dogs. They are retaining the big heavy hitters to come after you because you need to be held accountable. So I find this statement is so interesting that he's reading, because for weeks, the public has been watching these jokers hurl accusations and allegations and insinuations and all of these theories and suspicions swirling around these young men. And now that the attorneys representing these families are saying, oh, okay, we've had enough. We're not playing games with y'all anymore. Now that there's talk of defamation litigation, suddenly everybody wants to retreat behind, we was just asking questions, Nolan died and we just want to know what happened to him. No, you don't. You were never interested in the truth. You brought the race narrative into the discussion. You brought it into the discussion because you knew it would rile up the blacks. This is a part of your 2026 midterm Democrat election interference strategy. And now you're trying to hide behind we just want to know what had happened to Nolan Wells. No, you don't. You constructed an entire insinuation around identifiable human beings. These are real people. They have real lives, and these people will never be the same after this. You have no idea what they have gone through, are going through, and continue to go through because of your reckless mouth. All of your questions, you've been hiding behind a question with in all of these statements, I should say, they've really been statements hiding behind a question mark. A question mark is not holy water. You can't just throw it and sprinkle a little punctuation on an accusation and then magically you've cleansed yourself of responsibility. That is not how this works. What they were doing, well, did Warren do something to Nolan? What were the boys hiding something? Somebody knows something. 3 white boys and 1 black boy. Why did they leave him? Is this another Mississippi racial killing? Those questions don't exist in a vacuum when they're repeatedly placed. See, they put all of this whole narrative behind racial imagery. Well, this is Mississippi. They start bringing up historical lynchings. Then they start name dropping all of their racial hoax Hall of Famers. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Mississippi racism, say his name, a whole lot of fundraising. And then you throw the national political organizing behind it. The March on Washington. We got to take the House back. And if we get the House back, then we can get Hakeem Jeffries, can really get things going. And maybe we can get to the bottom of this, knowing that is not how this works. But here's what they do know that works. They know that context matters. They know that all this repetition matters. They know the way you frame this matters. But more importantly than any of that, you guys, people matter. You're watching a mind virus. These people are brainwashing the public, and they think this is a game. They think that when they're done, they don't care about the lives that they destroy. These are not characters in some Netflix mystery. These are real young men, real families who had a reputation. People's careers are on the line. This is a real community. People are receiving real threats against their life. Real parents are watching strangers on the internet speculate that their sons may have had something to do with another young man's death. And we have a young man that they legitimately loved Nolan, cared for him, spent time with him. They can't even mourn. Because when you have the platform that Ben Crump and Al Sharpton have, they think that you don't get to act like you're sitting around a kitchen table with 3 friends saying, I wonder what happened. You don't get to do that. You're playing with people's lives. They know exactly what happens when you inject an insinuation into the bloodstream of national media. You get this circus we've been watching for over a month. They know how quickly people will turn questions into conclusions. They know this. They know how quickly suspicion becomes accusation. They know how quickly accusation becomes harassment. These people have been harassed. So this is why he wants to give this grandiose ethnic narcissistic speech about why the First Amendment is so important to him now. This First Amendment speech is just so rich to me. But that's the point. These evil people are accomplishing exactly what they set out to do. Y'all, this was their goal all along. I have said these boys are casualties in their political ploy for power. They are. You're watching the Iron Triangle at work. You got the black fake preacher, the black fake civil rights worker, and Lucy McBath was around here somewhere. She the black politician. That Iron Triangle works in cahoots with each other to keep the black community beholden to the Democrat Party. And this is just one of many tools in their toolbox that they use. And it just so happens that these young men are casualties in that war. And they don't care that they get harmed in the process. They don't care. They do not care. The grip of the Congressional Black Caucus, I told y'all, it's getting weaker. People are waking up. We see that this whole time, that big bag boogeyman that they tried to tell us was the white man, we know it's always been them. It's always been these jokers right here. Just like Jesus, when he had to point out the Pharisees, how they were the problem the whole time, it's these Negroes right here. They're the ones that have been subjugating your communities. They're the ones that have been pumping poison into your communities, celebrating debauchery and degeneracy, encouraging you to kill your babies, advocating for illegals to move into your communities, advocating for, the rainbow community. That would be good. Every love is love, right? There's so many harmful things that every member of the Congressional Black Caucus, someone needs to ask, why are they all a part of the Equality Caucus? You're like, what does Congressional Black Congress people have to do with the Equality Caucus? The Equality Caucus is the caucus for the LMNOPs, if you didn't know. The rainbow people. See, the Congressional Black Caucus, they take a lot of money from the LMNOPs. And so since the LMNOPs, they're like, look, if we're going to give you money, you will advocate for us and our rights and what we want. And so the LMNOPs, those rights trump whatever rights they claim to be fighting for blacks. I don't even understand why we have a Congressional Black Caucus. They don't do anything but keep you subjugated, dependent on the government, believing you are a victim, and giving you symbolism over substance. They make these ethnically narcissistic, grandiose speeches to make you think that they're doing something. They take your money. Oh yeah, they take your money. But they can't explain why your roads are still crumbling. They can't explain why there are more people dependent on the government than working gainful employment in their district. They can't explain to you why the schools are bad and why they actively advocate against school choice, because your kid has to stay in a failing school. You can't make a decision for what's best for your kid. It's about the group. If your kid is failing, well, all the kids have to fail, because if we give you school choice, then it means your kid will have the opportunity to better himself. Well, then what about the kids whose parents don't care about them? You are supposed to sacrifice what's best for you for the collective. These are a bunch of cultural Marxists who they live like capitalists, but they want you to function like a communist. I'm telling you, this whole First Amendment speech, you have the right to speak freely, but your right to speak doesn't always make your speech wise. It doesn't make what you say true. It doesn't make what you say responsible. And it certainly doesn't mean that nobody else gets to respond. These people want to hide behind the First Amendment, but the First Amendment is not some magic force field, right? You invoke it, and then Ben Crump gets to stand behind a microphone and imply whatever he wants, and everybody else has to sit quietly because he uttered the words, well, you know, free speech, my First Amendment rights. Well, you're right. The boys' family, they've got speech too. And they've got attorneys, like big, powerful ones who are not playing with you. And if you believe that people have crossed the line from questions into damaging factual allegations, then these people have every right to challenge that through lawful means, which they are. Did I forget to tell you that they coming for you, Ben? Yeah, you're going to have some sleepless nights. These people are not playing with you. And that's not a threat. Like, that's real. That's what accountability looks like. Something this group has never been subject to. Al Sharpton has been doing this since the days of Tawana Brawley. And after every racial hoax, he gets on his funky little donkey and he rides off into the sunset to the next victim. And he never course corrects. He never corrects the record. He never admits, I was wrong. I was wrong as two left shoes. I caused a Benson Hurst to just fall apart in the riots. And they love the chaos because the ethnic narcissist lives and thrives in chaos. These are dark people who are evil. This is just another little trick that they're pulling. They are trying with this whole invoking of the First Amendment to conflate accountability with intimidation. Nobody's intimidating you. You're being held accountable. Again, those are two different categories. A frivolous lawsuit designed purely to scare somebody into silence, yes, that's different. That can raise some serious free speech concerns. But saying that, listen, you falsely accused me of being involved in a death, and I wasn't, and now I intend to defend my name. That's not an attack on journalism. Okay, you don't get to declare yourself a journalist and then call every allegation a question and then pronounce yourself, oh, I'm immune from the consequences because of the First Amendment. That's how it works. Here's what makes this whole little canned speech even more ridiculous. I don't know if y'all heard it, but let me see if we can play it again. Let's play it again.
Robust public discussion on matters of public concern, and those protections are not reserved just for traditional media. We are deeply concerned when cease and desist letters, threatened lawsuits, or other legal pressure become tools to intimidate or silence lawful scrutiny. There is an important difference between knowingly spreading false information and asking questions.
Yeah, well, you didn't just ask questions. That man just said there is an important difference between knowingly spreading false information and asking questions. Correct. Thank you, Ben. We agree. Thank you for saying it out loud. So now let's determine which one of those actually happened. Because we can look at the statements. Let's go ahead and look at your Facebook posts. Let's look at all of the interviews. Remember, you was whisking this family all around the country right after Nolan passed away. Let's look at the interviews. Let's look at who said what. Let's look at whether the claims that were presented as established fact. Let's look at whether people reached things or repeated things after they were told they were false and they did it anyway. So you're right. Let's look at the evidence because that's what we have the courts for. That's what we have the courts for. But you can't have it both ways. You cannot simultaneously say that there's a difference between false information and legitimate questions and then act offended, like pearl clutching offended that somebody wants a legal forum to determine whether you cross that line. So pick a struggle, pimpin'. You need to pick a lane and stay there. Because Al Sharpton's hog analogy makes the contradiction even worse. Listen, if your position is truly, we're only asking neutral questions, then why does somebody threatening to sue you suddenly become evidence that you've hit something? Do you see the game that these people are playing? On one hand, we're not accusing anybody. And then on the other hand, well, look how defensive they are. Well, we must be on to something. That is weasel, ethnic, narcissistic logic. I can't stand these people, y'all. I'm sorry. According to their logic, it literally allows you to accuse without admitting that you're accusing. How did they get away with this? It allows you to insinuate without owning the insinuation. But I told you, the chronic victim can never be trusted. So they're never going to admit wrong. The narcissist is never wrong. First of all, the narcissist believes that they're morally superior to you anyway. They believe they're perfect. And it would be too much of a blow and a narcissistic injury for the ethnic narcissist to say, you know what, my bad. We were off on this one and we screwed up and we need to retract what we said. We were really, really, they can't do that. No. The ethnic narcissist can never admit that they're wrong because they avoid accountability. Their egos are too fragile. One, they're too much of a coward. They'll never admit that they're wrong. So they play this game of constant projection. 9 times out of 10, whatever they're accusing you of, it's what they're doing. These are some evil Machiavellian style people. You have to rid them out of your life. Once you figure out what they're doing, you got to get rid of them. You got to cut them loose. You got to cut them loose because they're opportunists. They are out for self, their pockets, their positions of power. And the sad part about this is Christine, she's a willing participant, but at the end of all of this, she's going to be the victim. Now, she's not innocent of this, right? She's not without her own accountability. Make no mistake about that. I don't know, all these other content creators, listen, I give grace to the fact that she's mourning, but there is a level of complicity in this that she's going to have to own. This woman's smart. She strikes me as a smart woman. She sees the game that these people are playing. And right now she's blinded by her own selfish ambition to the point that she can't even back away and say, this is wrong. These people are using me. They're exploiting my son's death. And whatever I think I'm going to get out of this at the end, is it really worth it? Will I really be able to sleep at night? Those are questions that I'd have for her. I'm not ganging up on a grieving mother. I'm speaking the truth because somebody has to say it. She too has stoked the flames of this racial tension when this girl went to school with a whole bunch of white people who never did anything to her. She's incredibly comfortable around these people in her community until it became politically useful and expedient for her to exploit it. Your son has been around these people for a very long time. You grew up in this community. Now all of a sudden, you've got to hold your chest and say, Black mamas, we need to talk to our children and remind them of how to navigate in spaces with people who don't look like them. Since when, Christine? When was that your experience? What did someone do to you to all of a sudden, now this is your mantra? And now you're the black mama advocate for race relations in the South. When did that happen? That was a rabbit trail. I didn't mean to go there, but just she's not innocent in this either. All of the suspicion, the insinuations that Ben Crump and Al Sharpton have made, they think that this allows them, they think they can create suspicion and then retreat to who? Me? I was just asking a question. No, that's not how this works. What these people are going to learn is that words have consequences. And words have consequences. Wait a minute. I ain't tell you to talk. I pushed the button by mistake. Words have consequences, especially when you have a national platform. It's not an accident that they are standing behind a step and repeat banner with the National Association of Black Journalists as the logo behind them. They are basically issuing a clarion call to Black journalists to ensure y'all don't let this story die. This is them calling out the dogs, right? This is Jerome Crow politics at work. In the Jim Crow South, they would use the paramilitary arm of the KKK, of the Democrat Party, which was the KKK, to do a lot of their dirty work. So the KKK would ride at night, and if you was a black or a white person and they got wind that you were going to vote a different way, or if they needed to intimidate you into silence, or they needed to make sure that you did or not did something, they would subjugate, bully, terrorize, do all kinds of things to get you to comply. Well, the ethnic narcissists, the Jerome Crow Negroes, this is Jerome Crow politics that you're watching. They do the same thing. It's literally Jim Crow in blackface. It's the same bullying and subjugation tactics. And this is just one of the tools. The NABJ is kind of like their journalistic digital army of it would be the equivalent of the KKK riding out at night, right? Going into the airways, spewing out their falsehoods. Make sure you keep this story in rotation because we got to get to November, y'all. We have an election to win. We got to get the House back. So Nolan's story can't die because we need Nolan for our political purposes. This is not about us loving Nolan or the life that he lived or the beautiful soul that he was. No, Nolan represents political capital for us. And so we need you, the National Association of Black Journalists, to make sure you parrot the same brain dead talking points, confuse the public, keep the cloud of suspicion going, remind them that this is Mississippi. Remember, this happened in Mississippi, right? We can't forget the history of Mississippi. Forget the fact that there's a crime as we know it as of today has not been established. These young men have submitted to every request. Their lives have been pried into and turned upside down. Their phones have already been investigated. Now their phone, Nolan's phone, hasn't. They've had no problem. Ask whatever question you want. Investigate every inconsistency. Examine the phone. But there's only one party here that hasn't submitted a phone for examination. We examine the timeline. We welcome that. Talk to every witness, every statement. If evidence shows that somebody committed a crime, you should absolutely prosecute them. But do you know what? That standard has to work both ways. You don't get to be the victim and then dictate the terms and conditions in which the way this goes. You don't get to do that. If you're going to demand accountability from Nolan's friends, then the people making accusations and insinuations and all of these bogus public claims should be held accountable for what they say too. And that is not censorship, dear ones. That's just being consistent. Something that these pro-wokety woke blackity blacks don't know anything about. It's called consistency and accountability. And they're used to people hiding behind racism. When you cry racism, right? It's kind of like demons flee at the name of Jesus. When you cry racism, everybody's supposed to scour and run and hide. But it's lost its power. If everything is racist, then nothing is racist. You can try to fit that round peg into the square hole all day long and twice on Sunday, and it still doesn't fit, okay? It just doesn't fit. You don't get one standard for the race hustlers and then another standard for everybody that they point the finger at. That's not how this works. And so I know I need to get to these super chats. I promise I'm going to get to the super chats. But I want to make something else very clear. This is exactly why our culture has become so dangerous. People, because they don't teach logic in schools anymore, people confuse suspicion with evidence, right? They get on social media and they confuse emotion with proof. They'll confuse asking questions with permission to just say whatever you want. And then when innocent people say, wait, hold on, you're destroying my life here, the mob says, well, why are you so defensive? I'm sorry, it's because they're human, right? They are human and they have families. Their names are being associated with the death of their friend. Can you imagine? Let me give y'all a story. Back in 2005, I was working for an insurance company here in Metro Atlanta. And I was in the same training class with this young lady named Gia. Y'all, Gia was my girl. She was cute and she had all this style and she was just fun. And Gia, one night, I'll never forget, we celebrated her 25th birthday. And a couple of nights after that, Gia called me. She was a student. She went back to school and she was a student at Kennesaw State. And she called me. She said, April, I'm in a bind. She was like, I just got arrested in Cobb County and I need you to come get me. I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? She was like, they found some, can I say weed, marijuana in my room on campus and they picked me up and they got arrested. She was like, I'm probably going to get kicked out of school. I'm probably going to lose my job. Like she was just going and talking about and I was like, wait a minute. Okay. I was like, calm down. I will come get you. I came and got her. And I was like, are you good? You okay? And she was like, it was like she was just getting on her feet. And then I'm not taking up for the fact that she had a controlled substance that she shouldn't have had. Everybody acknowledges that was wrong. But she made this mistake. I'm just being a good friend to go pick her up. Do you know the next day, Gia didn't come to work. And we're all like, girl, you okay? We're calling her. She's not answering her phone. We're calling and calling and calling. A couple of days later, we get word. Gia deleted herself. She deleted herself. I was the last person that saw her alive. I can't imagine if just by that one fact, well, you picked her up. You were the last person that saw her. Surely you know something. You ain't seen nothing. I can't imagine. I'm helping my friend. I pick her up. I'm making sure she's good. The last person to see her, she deleted herself. And she left a note, and she thought that she was just getting on her feet, and then this happened, and she started thinking about the snowball effect of what this one bad decision was going to mean for the rest of her life. She had just gotten an apartment, she had just gotten a car, and she's like, if I get kicked out of school, and if I lose my job, and if this is happening, I'm gonna be homeless. And it just overwhelmed her. And that was the route that she took. Can you imagine if someone had tried to imply that simply because I was the last person to see her, that I had something to do with it? If your name is being associated with the death of your friend, that is a big deal. And when you know that you had nothing to do with it, that you've cooperated, and that you've done everything to help law enforcement, we want to know what happened to Nolan too. But now you've got these brain dead morons on the internet issuing you death threats, saying some of the most vile and wicked things via social media. And you can't come and go as you please. And you can't even work because of the threats. Your life is forever changed. Google exists. Your future is ahead of you. You've got potential employers that are now going to know, they know you not because of your achievements or for your skills and talents or abilities, but because of the internet never forgets. That is why you don't have to be guilty to care about your good name, Ben Crump. Scripture, Al Sharpton, treats a good name as valuable. Let me read to you guys Proverbs 22:1. It says, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver or gold. I know Al doesn't know anything about that because he's always been about the silver and the gold and the riches. He's never given a darn about having a good name. He used to be a fat, chubby mob rat from back in the day. So walking around with a tarnished reputation and trash character is just a regular Sunday for him. But reputations matter. The truth will always matter. And so if you're damaging somebody's name falsely, like he's done so many other people in the past, you don't get to shrug your shoulders and say, well, the First Amendment. No, Reverend Al, the hog that hollers is not necessarily the hog that you hit. Sometimes the person hollering is the person who's tired of you throwing bricks into the pen. Maybe, just maybe, instead of analyzing who hollered the loudest, you should put the darn brick down. Put the brick down and look at the evidence. Something these people don't want to do. Let me give you guys a little known fact. See, y'all, a lot of people don't know this. When the information about the phone came out, what people did not realize is that the phones of these three young men were very early on surrendered and examined and scrutinized and scrubbed and investigated. Willingly, no subpoena. It was like, okay, well, if this is what we need to do, here it goes. Why didn't that same standard apply? If you really wanted to know the truth, and if you really cared about what happened to your son, why is it your legal counsel has to send a letter almost 30 days later to be like, it's not that we're not cooperating, it's we're ready, we're willing to submit, we're just trying to coordinate. It's the excuses for me. It's the, y'all know what y'all are doing. Y'all know what y'all are doing. I don't know who in the Democrat Party is paying you to do this, but this stops. I am praying this is the last case that Ben Crump and Al Sharpton will remember the day they came to Ocean Springs and regretted it. I am praying that this is the one time that they are held accountable, their feet is held to the fire, and their feet is so hot and on fire that they are begging for somebody to spit on their feet to put the fire out. I am hoping that's what happens, because at some point, these people got to be held accountable. They have a track record of lying and being manipulative and crying wolf and racism where none exists. Literally, their Hall of Fame of Black race hoaxes, you can poke a hole in all of them and be like, no, this wasn't race. This wasn't race. They were at fault. Yep, they got shot. Yep, that one too. Where is your racism hoax Hall of Fame where it was legitimate grievance, it was proven to be on the basis of racism, and whatever judicial win that you received was just and right? When have y'all ever gotten justice? Like, I want to talk to Trey Reed's family and find out if they believe that you got justice for Trey Reed after manipulating them and promising them, we're going to do an independent autopsy that they've never seen. Where's that autopsy? I want to talk to Tamir Rice's mama, who called you out and looked in the camera and said, this ninja is trash. She said, I'll interpret. When she was like, he's not a good talker, she's basically like, he cannot communicate at all. He will ghost you when he's done with you. Just the ethnic narcissists, they're very good at discarding you. They will dispose you once they've gotten whatever it is that they have to take some sort of, you serve as a life force for the ethnic narcissists. So in this case, Nolan Wells serves as a life force for them to inject life into the Democrat Party's failed campaign strategy, right? They're trying to take the House back, and it's not looking too good because you got the Democrat socialists are out here messing up with the primaries, and they're not going to win in the general. And then on top of that, you have the Congressional Black Caucus losing power because of all the redistricting. So they're just losing their grips of power in so many different aspects. So they need Nolan Wells. He is the race hoax of the summer. And they need to keep his story in rotation, keep it alive at least till the first week in November. And then what's going to happen? Christine going to try to get through. And like right now, she on speed dial, right? So she can get through and talk to Reverend Al probably and talk to Ben Crump. And then eventually she going to be like, they keep sending me the voicemail.
We're sorry. All of our representatives are still assisting other customers. Please remain on the line as we value your call.
I don't understand. Like, they used to answer on the first ring. I've been on hold, Elmer, for a really long time. Do you think they're going to pick up? Hello? Hello? I don't think they're going to pick up. That's what's going to happen to you. How do we know this? Because they've done it to everybody else. You're not special. Okay, now you're kind of special because you half Asian, half black. So the black part is useful, but this woman is disposable. Nolan Wells' memory is disposable. This is what they do with Black death. They do not care about young black men. They care about the racial and political capital and the value that they add to the political discourse because they want power. And they're not going down without a fight. And if that means they have to exploit the death of a black man who it's just the necessary conditions to kind of make the public believe that race was involved, even though it wasn't. They don't care that they have to destroy the lives of 3 innocent young men. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this town is never the same and can heal and move on from this because all of the division and the racial strife and the tension they've caused, they do not care. They will move on to somebody else. You're disposable. They will discard you when they are done with you. That's what narcissists always do. That's what they always do. If you can't serve them and their purposes anymore, or the moment, I'm telling you what's going to happen. The moment Christine Wells Wansley starts asking questions to hold them accountable, that's the moment they're going to be like, yeah, it's time for us to jump ship. She's asking too many questions. She's looking for results. She's looking for answers. I don't know why she would think that we're here for results and answers. Like that's not what we do. Our job is to just keep the media frenzy and the attention going and to curate the narrative. Results is not the business we are in. If she came to them looking for justice, it's not going to happen. That's just a fact. And so, I've gone for an hour and 46 minutes, and I need to get to these super chats. So bear with me. Bear with me. We're coming. The big homie checking in at Green Frog. Hashtag Holly House listen. I like the Green Frog. I actually plan to go back to the Green Frog in the near future, probably to finish my book. I'll be a paying customer, though. I'll be a paying customer. And the Green Frog, you guys, is this beautiful property in Tennessee. I've frequented there before. And me and Henry got this little inside joke. Sorry I wasn't at the Green Frog this weekend. That did not happen. But to God be the glory. Amen. Hey, girl, God's verdict with Crystal. Hey, sis in chat, how are ya? We're going to use our platforms to fight for truth. Crump and Sharpton said they're just asking questions. Well, Satan asked questions too. They're in good company. Absolutely, sis. I'm going to reach out to you. If you are in the chat, and if you're a content creator, we want to push the Friends of Nolan Wells Give, Send, Go. We want to make sure they exceed their goal. Okay. And so, for example, like if you're a Starbucks person and you're like, I normally get Starbucks probably every day or every other day, sacrifice one of those Starbucks drinks and give to the GoFundMe. Like, I don't think you guys, for me, I am incredibly burdened with what these young men are going through because I saw this happen very early. I knew this is the direction this was going to go in. And I just made it my personal mission to counteract the narrative, to make sure we expose the political agenda that's underlying all of this. And so I've dedicated a lot of my content to this aspect of the case. I'm not getting into the conspiracy theories and the CETO call. I wasn't about to elevate and even give attention to such foolishness like that. My attention is on the fact that I know the modus operandi of the Iron Triangle. I know how they work. I know what their goals and objectives are. And therefore, unfortunately, Nolan Wells, his memory is caught in the crosshairs of that. And then there are victims, innocent victims, who are on the receiving end of the onslaught of these attacks. And you guys, it is vicious. It is vicious. It is evil. It is wicked. And if you are a Christian and if you are a believer, we don't care about ethnic expression. Ethnicity is nothing more than God's glory being reflected in the earth. God is the one who made us the ethnicities that we are. And it's not something that we glory in. It's just an expression of his beauty and glory in the earth. So the moment you become an ethnic narcissist and you start participating in the realm of the likes of Ben Crump and Al Sharpton, I'm going to have a problem with you. And I don't care that you look like me. I am going to speak the truth regardless of what it is. And your deeds are evil and wicked. And so therefore, I got to cut you with the word of God. It's just how it works. But here we go. We have another one. Hey, Smetty, how are you? Let us unite and take these hustlers down. Listen, that's what's going to be required. You guys, litigation to go after the heavy hitters, it's expensive. If you think about Al Sharpton, I don't know if he's in New York. I don't know if what state Ben Crump is in. And then you've got all the other content creators, the larger ones who pushed and peddled falsehoods and defamed these people. You've got to get legal counsel and legal representation in those jurisdictions. So that means you've got to retain an attorney for each of those. So it's going to require resources for that. And so that's what the Give, Send, Go is for. And I am hoping that as much as it depends on you, if we could just make a small sacrifice to donate to these boys so that they can defend themselves, because I wouldn't want this to happen to me or my children or any of my peers' children. I just told you, this could have been me if Gia's mom decided to say, well, you were the last person who saw her. Surely you know something. Surely you did something. Wait, what? I'm like, I picked her up from Cobb County. That's it. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, this can happen to anybody. And this is not cool. This is not okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I just, y'all know how I do. But we've got to fight back. And I'm saying we have to fight back, because the only way this stops is if good people look away and do nothing. If the truth hurts, let them die. Right? We have to be bold and stand firm and be courageous in this hour. And one of the ways that I'm bold and courageous in this hour is I use my voice, but we can also use our wallets. If you have a blog, you can blog about this. You can tweet about this. You can do the book of faces, whatever it is your thing is. But they've made it clear that they don't want this story to die. And I'm like, okay, say less. We got you. Say less. We're not going to let it die that you've defamed these people and you weren't just asking questions and you really don't care about what happened to Nolan Wells. I've already exposed. As a matter of fact, let's go through. Did I show y'all? I meant to. I've got 2 graphics I need to share with you before I get to the last super chats. This one right here. This is the Darvo play. Earlier in the live stream, I told you this is the rhetorical device and the manipulation tactic that Ben Crump and Al Sharpton are using in order to dodge accountability for defaming these young men. So one is deny. D stands for deny. Claim that no accusation was made. Minimize or deny wrongdoing. Hey, we're only asking questions, when they know darn well that they did more than just ask questions. They inserted race into this discussion very early on. They've been accusing and making statements that have had negative and adverse consequences and has caused the internet to incite violence and threats against innocent people who simply were just friends. All they did was show themselves friendly and be friends with Nolan Wells. And this is what happens to them. Number 2, after you deny, you've got to attack. You've got to go after the people that are demanding accountability. And you have to cast them as intimidators or enemies. Remember when Ben Crump first heard that he might get sued? It's just a distraction. And then they lied and claimed that no one has threatened to sue Christine Wansley. What Al Sharpton should be saying is there have been threats to sue him and Ben Crump. Now, yes, that has happened, but nobody's threatened to sue the family. It's been you. So what he goes and says, well, they're just trying to silence us. And we just want you to quit lying. Quit lying. You are not interested in cooperating with the authorities. You know how we know you're not interested in cooperating with the authorities? We know you're not interested in cooperating because when it was offered, when the Cajun Navy went to the family and said, listen, do you want this boat, the cadaver dogs to sniff this boat? How many of you know that the attorneys for the Wells estate declined? They did not want the cadaver dogs to sniff out and inspect the boat. If you cared about what happened and just wanted to eliminate foul play, verify that Nolan wasn't on that boat, why would you decline the cadaver dogs? Who does that? Any resource that is offered, would you not take advantage of it at your disposal? I don't know if y'all knew that. I just wanted to put that out there for the record. That needed to be said. Number 3, the RVO of Darvo, reverse victim and offender. You flip the roles so the accused becomes the victim and the person seeking accountability becomes the aggressor. Y'all, I have lived this. I'm so passionate about this Darvo play because I have literally lived this exact manipulation tactic. It has been used on me to dodge accountability. And at first, I knew something was wrong. I was like, what you will not do is make me question reality. What you will not do is flip the roles so that now you're the victim? Are you kidding me? I tried to hold you accountable and now you're the victim. I told you. The ethnic narcissist, just like the narcissist in real life, will refuse accountability. It literally hurts their very soul. They cannot be held accountable. Their egos cannot handle it. And so they're going to, the moment you try to hold them accountable, you're now the aggressor. Oh, you trying to bully us. You trying, I'm under duress. You put a gun to my head. You sitting there like, I know you lying. I don't know who you must have thought. I know I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. I don't know who you thought I was, but I am not the one. I am not the one. That is what these young men down in Mississippi are saying. We are not the ones. We've been nothing but kind to Nolan Wells. We've done nothing but advocate for the truth to find out what happened to him. And this is what you do? Oh, okay. Well, now you're about to be held accountable. Oh, and it hurts. DARVO, once again, stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Warning sign. Whenever accountability is reframed as oppression, 9 times out of 10, the DARVO attack is at play. Bam. I have had this happen to me. I've had it happen to me, so now I can spot it on sight. And the moment I sense, oh, that's what we're doing, I'm done with you. Oh, I am so done with you. You can't be trusted. And whatever I thought we had, oh, no. It's not that. It's not that. I was boo-boo the fool for thinking and operating in good faith. I feel bad for these young men because they're like, we were friends. This boy slept at our home. He hung out with us. We were nothing but a friend to him. And look at how they're being treated. Let me explain something. God is an avenger. He will repay. Holding Ben Crump and Al Sharpton accountable is not vengeance. That is what biblical justice is going to look like. Mark my words. Sis, he know him. He can't read. He can't read. Y'all, we need to give a round of applause. Didn't Ben Crump do a good job reading that? I mean, outside of his infamous truth, outside of that part, him did a really good job. Him read all the words. Him did so good. Him did so good. We so proud. It's about time. We're glad that, he's been struggling. He's been struggling for a minute. But let me get this super chat. Oh, I did that already. I'm like delusional. I'm not playing with you. I am not playing with you. Listen, you better talk about the degrees of the weather. Nope, no, not tonight. I don't have the bandwidth, homie. I do not have the bandwidth to play with you tonight. Thank you, Lori Smith, for that super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Okay, now he's back with some more foolishness. J. Tyler Cox gonna make an example of some. Listen. They need to be very afraid. Listen. I don't know what's going on with my throat tonight, but they have messed with the wrong town. They have messed with the wrong town. The idea that you can come into a community that is incredibly cohesive, very diverse, full of bunch of biracial and quadroons and octoroons running all over the place. You go down there and you exploit this community, bring in your race hustling, grieving, lying, thieving self down to this community with a narrative that doesn't even make sense. Assuming, see, the problem with the ethnic narcissists, they think that everybody is like them. They're suspicious of everyone and everything because they don't operate in good faith. They don't know what it's like to have genuine relationships with people who don't look like them or with people who don't serve a purpose for them. Just being friends and living in community. The ethnic narcissist doesn't know anything about that because everything for them is transactional. Everything is transactional. So the help that they're offering you, it's not free. It comes with a cost. It's a transaction. When Al Sharpton shows up, it's not because of the care and concern for the victim. It's because what's in it for me? There's always a what's in it for me narrative at the end. This is what you have to understand about the ethnic narcissist. So since it's transactional, the idea that this community, black and white people, get along, they've grown up together, going to school together, getting their hair cut together, worshiping together. They don't know what to do with that because all of their relationships are contrived and they're transactional. And so they thought that they were going to come down here and that crying racism and putting an odor of mendacity and a cloud of suspicion on this community, that they were going to burn it down and that this was going to serve their political purposes. But now they're finding out, hear me clearly, the reason why they do this, because on some level it is effective. You are going to have a percentage of blacks who are completely sold on the narrative, and there's nothing you can do or say to them to make them see it different. There are still people that believe that Trayvon Martin was killed because he was black by a white man, right? Like there are people who don't know that Ben Crump was involved in that case, and they did all kinds of nefarious things to pull the wool over people's eyes. There are still people who are blinded to the truth of the facts of what happened in with the race hoax Hall of Famers. They don't know the truth that hands up, don't shoot was fake. They don't know the truth about Breonna Taylor and what happened with her. They really believe this foolishness. So that's why they keep doing it. They are expecting for a percentage of the blacks to just go along with this narrative and to vote Democrat out of fear that if you don't, more situations like Nolan Wells is going to happen. And you're like, but how can that be? Because we haven't established that a crime was committed yet. And these boys didn't have anything to do with it. So how is me voting for Democrats in November going to either prevent this from happening or cause the federal government to step in and get involved? We don't even have, the grand jury has come back yet and said a crime's been committed. This is going to end up with a no bill. I've learned so many new legal terms lately, and I don't know if I printed out. Whenever a case goes to the grand jury and they've determined that there isn't any evidence to indict anyone, like nothing's going to come of this, it's called a no bill. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen with this case. And when that happens, this side claims that they're going to accept that, but all they're going to do is move the goalposts and just say, what we can't trust the jurisdiction down there in Mississippi. I'm telling y'all, they are going to escalate this. This is going, I guarantee you, she's probably has a speaking slot at his funky little March on Washington on April 28th. I wouldn't be surprised if Christine Wansley is going to be there. They might even be trying to launch her political career. They've promised this woman something. I don't know what it is. I can't prove it. I am speculating that they may have promised her something. It's no different than Lucy McBath ran on the memory of her dead son, and she's got a congressional seat in my state, and she wins by invoking the name. They use their children as these political pawns. This is probably, she might have a political future. She may have a political career in her future. I don't know. But anyway, listen. There are more super chats that I'm missing. Oh Lord, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm gonna have to make this bigger because I really can't see. What did I miss? Did I get this one? Thank you, sis. She said, we won't let the story die. Truth will always win. Amen, Crystal. I believe that. Thank you so much for this super chat. I wish people would stop running to the useless duo. They never end up they don't help. All they do is hurt, cause more division, cause more strife. They leave a wake of terror wherever they go. And then the families are left trying to pick up the pieces of what these people, the race hustlers don't realize that after they get back on their donkey and move on to the next town, the grieving families are left with the reality of, oh, wow, our family member is gone. They're really dead. That silence is loud. We've never gotten justice, and you won't call us back. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, these families, if someone were able to talk to them, they would feel so jaded because they're like, we were absolutely used. We were used. They exploited us. And at the time, we didn't know it. We really thought we were doing the right thing by bringing them in our purview, but we've realized that they were only out for self. Like, there's enough evidence to support that, but for whatever reason, everybody hasn't gotten the memo. So that's why content like this is important. Dante. How are you, sir? Dante said, evening, April. Another great breakdown of the racial grift that has felt wrong to me my entire life. I could never articulate why it felt wrong, but you have perfectly. Thank you so much, Dante. You know what? I really think, even though I was raised in a Democrat household, my mother saw she saw the hustle and the lying, preaching, fake Christian antics of Al Sharpton from way back when. I was young during the Tawana Brawley case, and I remember watching, sitting in the living room. I can still smell the carpet. I can still see the big old square console TV. And I remember my mother saying, that girl is lying and he knows it. I will never forget that. And I was too young to really understand the concept of grape or assault. I mean, I knew what it was. And I remember looking at the pictures and I was like, oh my gosh, they like spread boo-boo on her? Like, that's horrible. And my mother was like, that girl is lying. She was like, she's lying and he knows it. And I never forgot that. My mother never trusted Al Sharpton. And we were a Democrat household. She's never liked Al Sharpton. She said she knew he was a race hustling pimp the moment he came on the scene. So you're right. Many of us probably saw it, but we just never knew how to articulate it. April said, I was under duress. AG to my head. I ain't fooling with you tonight. I don't. I can't. I'm not. I won't. Okay, that was the last one. Listen, you guys. It is 10:41. So many of you have to work tomorrow, and so it's important that you get up on time and you need your rest. But this story was important for me to cover. I'm not done covering this. The political angle is real. We've heard them in their own words invoke the balance of power with the Democrats taking the House in November. And you should be trying to wonder, why did they bring in a member of the Congressional Black Caucus to speak about her dead son during this press conference? Why are we discussing the balance of power and the November election? Why are you bringing up voting rights and Hakeem Jeffries being wanting him to be the speaker? Like, what does any of this have to do with Nolan Wells, considering a crime has not been established and all you did was spend time trying to protect yourself from defamation lawsuits that at this point is too late because you were running your mouth and you didn't think these people were going to fight back? That's where we are right now. And so just like the pro-wokety woke blackety black side of this discussion is not going to let this story die, neither are we. The people of the light, the people who love God and love his word and who understand that the gospel unites all people of every race, tribe, tongue, nation, and people group, and that we walk in the light and want the truth, and wherever the truth is where we dwell. But we're not going to waddle in the mud with the demons of the deacons of darkness and dependency. We're not going to do that. But as much as it depends on us, we are going to make sure that they are held accountable legally, judicially, using whatever means of the law that is at our disposal. We're going to do that. And so I'll grab the link to the GoFundMe, and I'm going to commit to posting about not the GoFundMe, the Give, Send, Go every day. And if you feel led to support, we just need to make sure that they have the money available to defend themselves. Because if a fake race hoax can raise almost $1 million, surely that people of the light, God's people, can raise money to defend themselves against the unfruitful deeds of darkness and expose them at the same time. So I love you guys with the love of the Lord. Until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.
Before the American Revolution, our founding fathers considered themselves slaves of the empire. And then Thomas Jefferson read John Locke. And he said that our freedom was not given us by the king. It was an unalienable right given us by God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. The founders understood that, and this is why, at the end of the Declaration of Independence, they put, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They said they would die before they'd be slaves. I won't just die before I be a slave. I'll kill before I be one. So all y'all out there to say you have no choice, what the founders showed you. It was Patrick Henry that said, give me liberty or give me death. And on that fateful night when George Washington had to cross the Delaware River in the ice and the snow, or the American Revolution would be lost. They said, General, what are the passwords? He said, victory or death. Either we're successful tonight or we all die. That's the idea. And I am a free man. So all you out there that believes that someone has to give you your freedom, you're admitting that you're a slave. If you come try to take my freedom away, God has given me the right to defend myself. And I got two things that'll get you off of me. That is Jesus and my 38. Slaves is a choice.